I'm 50. I'll be 52 next month. I got shit going on with my body that I did not ever realize was going to be happening to me. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for everyone for buying me coffees at chewingthefatbr.com. I really appreciate that. Helps keep the podcast rolling, keeps me up and energized. And also, what I really love is your words of support on Instagram and Facebook and the reviews and ratings on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much. I can't tell you thank you enough for all of that. It really does make this all worthwhile. I'm really excited about my guest today. We've had to reschedule a couple of times to try and get her in here, but please welcome Liz Bellmer. Hey, Liz, welcome to the studio. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you.
I know you see?
I'm
see,
sorry.
No, it's okay. See, I told you. It's like somebody strumming an out-of-tune guitar over there. You reached out to me, I guess about a month or so ago, and I guess schedules just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. I've known Liz it's funny, whenever I talk about like theater folks, and that's where I was introduced to you and where our friendship started. It's always right when I got in from Birmingham, so it's probably been 15 or so years.
It has. It's been, I think everybody knew Dave before they knew me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they met me and liked me more. Kidding. But yeah, it's been about 14 years.
Yeah. Liz is, like I said, she mentioned Dave, who performed a lot with the Augusta Players. And you have how many children that have gone through the Players as well?
I have 4 children who have gone through the Players. Grace and Lee, the 2 oldest, mm-hmm. started with, it's funny because Debbie Ballas and I became such good friends, and her daughter Claudia was doing a version of Charlotte's Web when the kids were younger, and Sean was my youngest, was just born, so he was about a year old. So this was 18 years ago.
Oh wow!
So yeah, which is crazy when I say that because I'm like, oh, I've known everybody for 14 years. No, I've known everybody for a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, the 2 of them got cast, and Claudia and I knew each other, but Dave hadn't yet gotten involved with much, and so I knew her first, and then we just kind of got involved, and Dave got involved, and the rest is history. We've just been really super involved with everything. The kids all went through it, and here we are. Yeah.
Now, your involvement with the Players, you've never done anything on stage?
Never, and I never will.
Why?
Because I'll do this because nobody can see me.
Okay.
I'm just not that kind of person.
But you are a huge arts supporter, though,
yes,
for
absolutely.
sure.
I am the support system.
Yeah, and everybody needs that, mm-hmm. and so you're one of the faces I always look forward to seeing when I'm, when we're in rehearsals or we're performing or things like that. Always know it's going to be a good time if the Belmers are involved. So, Liz, what have you got going on right now? What's going on with life? You've been through a lot of changes. I've seen you, a huge arc of things, and we can go through all of that stuff. But what's going on right now? What's going on today? Today
I am still, mom to the ones that love me the most.
Is that the ones that still at home?
The ones that, none of them are home anymore. It's kind of crazy. I've got this empty nest, and I've never had an empty nest before, and it's very strange. Sean, our youngest, is he's in Milledgeville. He's in his second year of school. And, it's crazy, but I, living on my own for the first time in ever, and started a business a few years ago, bought a business in Aiken and was super excited about it. Mm-hmm. Loving life. It was doing really great, and that thing that shall not be named happened. And when you own an escape room, it's really, really hard to keep it open in the midst of a pandemic,
Yeah.
because it's basically touch everything, look at everything,
Everybody
be
touch
in a
everything,
room
right.
with lots of people and try to get out.
Right. A small room.
Yes,
lots
a
of-
very small room that you cannot social distance in.
Yeah, it's almost the exact opposite of what they told you to do.
Exactly. And so for a while we had to shut down, and then when they let us open, it was very limited in what we could do, and it was a really tough decision, but I decided that I needed to, just not be doing that anymore, because it was bleeding me dry.
Yeah.
So sadly closed that business and just started working. I work for a plumbing company here locally. And I don't know what it says about me that working with a group of guys that are, plumbers and what have you is just a super great fit for me, but it's a super great fit for me, and I'm super happy there.
That's awesome.
Just, living the dream.
Yeah.
Doing what I got to do to get up in the morning and put my feet on the ground and keep moving.
That's awesome. So, obviously the world of the kids not being at home and being an empty nester, how has that changed? Like your getting up in the morning routine?
Dude, let me tell you, this was okay. So what people may or may not know about me is I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. When we found out I was pregnant, the first thing that Dave said to me was, I hope you want to stay home. And it was like the heavens opened up and this sunshine shined down on me. And it was like, yes, this is all I've ever wanted. Because if you had asked 10-year-old Liz, what does she want to be when she grows up? The answer was a mom.
That's awesome.
And so I was able to stay home with them, and my mornings, afternoons, evenings, I lived and breathed my children.
Right.
And so when the first one went off to college, it was, very tough. You guys can remember that, I'm sure. And then, the second one went off, and then it's funny because, and I tell Abby this all the time, Abby's my third. And when she left to go to school, it was like really hard. And I was like, why is this so hard for me? And I recognized, and I call her my somebody, because when I would holler out in the, from the kitchen, hey, would somebody do this or would somebody do that? It was always Abby that did it.
Yeah.
And so when she left and went off to school, we're so blessed that we were able to send them off to school, all of them off to school away, and they just had such amazing and great experiences. But Abby was my somebody. She was my somebody. She did everything for me. And so when she left, it was tough. And then Sean, took off, and he went off to school in Milledgeville. And not having anybody at home is just very, very strange. I have two little dogs, Lucy and Vivi, who keep me company, who, look forward to me coming home. And it's just it's very different. I can remember waking up every day after I found out I was pregnant with Grace. And I've always told people, before my feet hit the ground, I always said to myself and just asked for, whatever being is out there that's controlling all of us, just make me be better. Help me be better than what I had. And, I don't want to sit here and say that I had bad parents, because I didn't. But I wanted to be better. I wanted to do better by my children than I felt like was done by me. And now I, for 28 years, I've done that. I get up in the morning, and that's what I do. I ask to be better. And it's, some days it's a bigger struggle than it was. And now it's not so much asking to be a better parent, because I feel like I knocked that crap out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
When I look at my 4 kids, I'm like, nobody's perfect, but damn, did I come close.
Yeah.
I came so close to perfect parenting, because they're just such amazing individuals. And now it's more, you wake up, and before your feet hit the ground and before my dog jumps off the bed, it's like, you know what? Help me be better. I just want to be better.
Yeah.
And that really encompasses so many different things. It's not only just being a better human being, but it is focusing on getting better. Because there's so many things that I think all of us go through and none of us really talk about, because we're afraid to, or we're embarrassed, or whatever that might be for us. I just ask, let me be better. Whether, like I said, whether it's a better human, whether it's a better parent, whether it's a better person, whether it's a better friend, whatever that might be, or maybe most days at these, most days now, it's just help me get better.
Yeah.
Help me get better.
Yeah. You went through a big, I would say, getting better period, transformationally with your health.
I did.
Because when I met you, you were on the fluffy side like me.
It's funny. I thought about this today when we were, when I was just thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to go sit with Rob and be on a freaking podcast. What is that even going to look like? And I was
it's not going to look like anything.
I know it's not going to look, because nobody can see me. But I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, Rob knew Fat Liz. And I was like, you know what? Why do you call her Fat Liz? That's not very nice. But it's what I felt at the time. And it's how I identify myself back then. And it's funny because a friend of mine at one point, I'd be like, there's a McDonald's on this corner. You turn there. And I was like, oh, man. I said, I didn't realize that Fat Liz gave directions by fast food places. But I did, because it was just a different time in my life. But yeah, I did go through some transformations. And then, you get to a place where you're like, oh, my gosh, I feel like a rock star. I am in the best health I've ever been. My body's in the best shape it's ever been in. And then you have this birthday. And there's a 5 in it and a 0 in it. And it's not 05, it's 50. And you wake up and suddenly you're a different person. And nobody told you that was going to happen.
Wow.
And I know there's a ton of women out there, and younger, older, my age, whatever it might be. If you're younger than me and you haven't yet hit the Mini-Monster, I'm here to tell you it's doable, but she's not fun.
Yeah.
She's not fun. She will change your outlook. She will change your body. All of those things. And you just don't realize that it's about to happen. And then, of course, with the pandemic and stress eating and, the kids would all come over. I'm like, it is 5:00 somewhere. Where's the corkscrew?
Right.
I really hope we weren't the only family drinking at noon. But, at that point, it was like, it was a free for all.
Yeah.
But I did go through some major transformations, and I'm super glad that I did it. And it was life-changing. I think it changes everything about you. It changes, I don't want to say it changes who you are, because it doesn't. It changes how you look. Yeah. It doesn't change who you are. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
I think there's a lot of perception that goes along with that, self-perception as well as perception from other people as well. I claim the title fat guy. I know I'm a fat guy, and I wear it like armor, which means that it can't harm me. So you can call me fat all you want to. I'm okay. I'm like, yes, apparently your eyes work, because I am.
Right.
And I'm comfortable. Do I want to lose some weight? Yes. Do I want to, do I wish I had, a Dwayne Johnson physique? Sure. That would be awesome. But to me, it's the perception. Like I work hard in reading and staying educated and being up on technology and all this other stuff, because that's who I am, because I don't want to be considered or perceived as slovenly or a slob or dumb because of being fat, because I happen to enjoy eating, and I do, and I go to the doctor and I'm in perfect health when the doctor's looking at my blood work and he's like, how? How? I was like, I don't know, but it's awesome. And it's hard for him to say, well, I need you to do this, because he's like, well,
when your blood work shows something,
everything's good.
And and I think that perception is reality. Just that is such a Debbie Ballas saying, but I do think that people look at us and they perceive you differently. I mean, I know that I was perceived very differently when I was heavy and I was Fat Liz. And then you start to make these changes. And it's funny because I do like to say I'm the same on the inside as I was back then. But the reality is, when you go through weight loss the way that I did, and of course, everybody assumes that you've done something medicinally or
Surgically
or something to that effect. And the reality is I did what they tell you to do. I diet, fewer calories in, more calories burned, you're going to lose weight until you hit 50. Then it's not going to work anymore. You got to drop back and punt at that point. But I still haven't figured out that punt. I haven't gotten it off the ground, but we're working on it. But it does affect you mentally. It does change because people do start to perceive you differently, and you really have to analyze and look at yourself. And it does. And this is one of the things I talked to with the woman who owned the gym that I was going to at the time, is the emotional effect of weight loss. Nobody talks about it. I'm realizing in just sitting here talking to you, there's so much that we don't freaking talk about. There's just so much that we don't talk about because it really does delve into the mental side of things. And I still, as far as we've come, I just don't think enough people are willing to open up about the mental side of things and how they affect us and how they affect our emotions, how they affect the way we are and how they affect the things that we do. I just don't think enough of us talk about it. But yeah, I mean, the emotional side of weight loss is as big, if not bigger, in my opinion. You get to wear the cute clothes and, things fit different and you look good and everybody's telling you how great you look. But then you start to question yourself. Well, what did I look like before?
Yeah.
What did you think of me before? And those types of things. And so there's many aspects of it.
Yeah, it's just, and I think that ties into what you're talking about as far as people don't talk about stuff, and it's so much harder now to navigate even conversations.
It really is. And that's, okay, I'm going to get, there, as a woman, I just feel like there's so much that we are held to. And there's so many things that we as women just don't want to discuss with one another because number one, you either think that nobody else is going through what you're going through, or, it's embarrassing, the things that are happening to you, or, the way that you're feeling, and I should be more in control and those types of things. And I was standing in the pharmacy the other day, and this is just funny, cute little story. And I'm 50, I'll be 52 next month. I got shit going on with my body that I did not ever realize was going to be happening to me. And I was like, what the hell is this? And it was just a particular symptom of that lovely mental monster that we all get to go through. And if you don't get to go through it because you had some kind of surgical procedure, yay you. The rest of us are fighting the battle, and it's a pain in the ass. But anyway, I said something, and I used the biblical term for the lady parts, and I said it under my breath. And I was in the pharmacy, it's custom pharmacy, and there's only like 3 women in the store with me. And I was talking to the pharmacist, who happened to be a man, and I was like, what is this about? And what is that? And I used that word, and I said it under my breath. I'm like, why are we not talking about this? Why can we not say the V word in front of other women? And, and he was just laughing, because I was like, I didn't know about this, and this, and, the night sweats and the this and the that. And he kind of laughed, and he said, turn around and look. And there was a woman behind me who's just fanning herself, and there's another woman behind me just shaking her head, yes. And I'm like, our grandmas did not tell us this, and I don't know about y'all, but my mama didn't tell me what was going to happen to me, and I thought I was losing my damn mind. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? We need to start talking about this more, because I have 2 daughters, and Lord willing, one day I'll have 2 daughter-in-laws, and I hope that they love me enough that they are willing and ready and open and will talk to me about things that are going on in their lives. But I'm like, somebody needs to tell this next generation coming up exactly what's going to happen to them, and just empower them, I guess, to some degree, to be okay with what's happening to our bodies, and to be okay with the fact that you're going to have irrational thoughts, and you're not going to know where they came from. And accepting that that's normal, and that's okay. Yeah.
And, and as you say, I think especially moms, you are held to, of course, children put their parents on pedestals.
They damn well better.
Whether they realize it or not. But that's the thing, is you're just mom. You're the rock steady. You're always there. The lunch is always made. The clothes are magically washed. They don't see the work that goes into being a mom. you know, and the mental gymnastics you do to coordinate 4 children's schedules with theater and football and soccer and baseball and every other, you know, endeavor that they want to do, as well as getting to school on time and making sure they're fed and making sure that dinner's cooked and everybody has a meal, all of that stuff.
I mean, women are held to such a crazy standard these days, but when I look at a woman now who has decided, and that's what we decided for our family. We didn't have the big house, the fancy cars. For our family, what we decided was important was having somebody there when the kids got home and having somebody there to take the kids where they needed to be. And when I look at the 4 of them now, I look at Grace, who's a high school teacher, who is very loved by her students, who is an amazing individual. And I look at Lee, who's a deputy sheriff and, you know, just very dedicated to what he does and just the most even-tempered, you know, if I could blow sunshine up his butt, I would. He's such an incredibly easygoing person, and he's just so calm, and his nature is so amazing. And then I look at Abby, and she's in PT school. She's going to be finished soon, and she's just an incredible human being who cares about everything in life. And I look at Sean, who's, you know, finding his way in college and living his best life right now, which he should be doing. But I look at the 4 of them and the relationship that they have with one another and the relationships that they have with me and with Dave. And I'm so proud of that time that I spent at home with them. And I'm so grateful. And I know that not everybody wants that. And I know that not everybody can have that. And I don't begrudge anybody their decisions in life. And I'm, you know, I just think everybody has to do what's best for them. But for us, that's what was best. And I just look at those kids and I'm like, damn, you know, it took me a long time. It took me probably until Grace was in high school for me to recognize that I had a part in that they just didn't like come out this way and that they just, you know, some of it is, but I looked at it. I'm like, I worked really hard to get them where they're at. And I made damn sure that everything they were doing and everything that they needed. And, you know, I worked really hard to get them where they are. Yeah. And it took me a while to acknowledge it, but I do acknowledge that. And I do own that. And I've always said to my kids, I said, don't own something that's not yours. Do not own anything that doesn't belong to you, because here's the reality. It's not yours, and you can't fix and or change it. It belongs to somebody else. Right. But if it's yours, own it. Yeah. Good or bad. Yeah. Own it. Yeah. And if it's bad, fix it. Yeah. But I started to own my part in who they've become, and I'm proud of it. And you should be. You provided stability. You provided a strong foundation for them to grow on. Right. You know, and as a father, you know, sometimes those are things that I missed out on with my boys, because the dynamic was, you know, I'm going to work, I'm going to bring the money. And for me, I was working 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs at a time, because that's what I felt we needed to do to make the money to have the life so that they could have the things and all that stuff. And some of those foundational moments are things that I don't have, regrettably. Right. I mean, I was there for my kids. I was there for them, and we still have a great relationship. But those things that you're talking about, that type of stuff, I just was not always a part of those things, because my role was not that. And I think that's really important when you're talking about raising a family, and you decide those roles, and that's. You deal with that, and that's where you are, and you have to try and interject yourself. And this is a father speaking. You have to try to interject yourself into that foundation as much as you possibly can. Absolutely. And I watched Dave do it, and as the kids have gotten older, and, you know, Dave and I split up, and, you know, we're kind of managing and working on finding that again. But that whole dynamic changed. And Sean was 16. He was a sophomore in high school when that split happened, and it was very difficult and very different for him as opposed to the other 3. It was difficult for all 4 of them. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't, but the dynamic was very different for him. But I sit back, and I'm that kind of person that, you know, everything happens for a reason. We may not know what it is, but everything happens for a reason. And what happened with me and that relationship it had to happen in order for me to get where I'm at now. And like I said, eventually we're going to find our way back to one another. It's just, very timid at this point. But I look at how it opened up the relationships that the kids have with Dave now. And not that it was a good thing, quote unquote, for us to be apart from one another, but in us being apart from one another, it has opened up so many valuable things to everybody in our family. Yeah. And the way we depend on one another now is very different than it was before. And I do hope and pray that one day we will, be sitting in rocking chairs, looking at our grandchildren and kind of, chuckle about these few years that, took Liz to, kind of find herself and what have you. But you were saying as a father, you have to interject yourself and find a way into these things, because Dave worked. Yeah. He was gone all the time, and I was home with the kids, and they depended on me for so many things. And now I see them open up and seek his help and seek his advice. And I think that also comes with just age. There doesn't have to be a split in the family or anything like that. But it's just amazing to me how, as they age and as they grow up, how the dynamic just changes, mm-hmm. and the relationships change. And it's been kind of nice to watch how, especially the youngest, especially Sean, has really had to learn to depend more on his dad, as opposed to, mom having to fix everything or what have you. Not that I fix anything for him, but it's just different. The dynamic has changed, and it's different. And I hope that one day we'll be able to look back at it and go, you know what, it sucked, but it's really good that it happened, because it brought us where we are now.
Yeah.
And it just kind of changed sometimes. Yeah. I like to use the expression, sometimes you got to drop back and punt. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where we're at. We're just dropping back and we're going to punt and it's going to be okay. I don't know football terminology. And if I said I don't know what happens when you punt a football. I really don't. I have no idea. I shouldn't probably use that analogy, because it's like you drop back and punt. What the fuck happens to the ball after you punt it? Maybe I need to figure that out. Maybe once I figure that out, I can move on.
There we go.
I'll find it. I don't know.
Yeah. You were talking about some of the stuff earlier that you just don't know, that the discussions you never had, mm-hmm. in things that happen that mom, grandma maybe never told you. Maybe this is one of those kind of things. Maybe because you have to think as humans and being the children of other humans, that maybe they had these same kind of things that went on that you never knew about.
Right. And I do think that that's the case, because I know in talking with my mother as an adult, there's so many things about her life that you just didn't share because they're your kids. And so you don't talk about it. And I feel like as my kids have gotten older, I do share more with them than probably they even want me to sometimes. But I do. I think that there's such a stigma of, when you go through something hard in your life, that you just don't want to talk about it to anybody. Mm-hmm. But what I have found, for me anyway, is the more I talk about it, the easier it becomes to deal with. Again, as a woman, and, I would love to know at some point, shoot me a message on Facebook or whatever, if you're a woman going through this, or you're a younger girl that's just dealing with some other things. But how much information do you want? How much information do you need? Because I feel like there's so many of us out there who are going through things. And if I could just start a big coffee clutch with all of these fantastic women who I know, we all have something to share. Mm-hmm. It's not just women, but we all have something to share with one another. We all have something to talk about, and we all need to stop being so damn afraid of what we're feeling and how that's going to be perceived. Because everybody's going through something, and mm-hmm. all of it's normal. Mm-hmm. We've got to normalize everything, basically. Stop feeling like you're alone, because whatever you're going through as a 50-year-old woman who wakes up one morning and goes, this was not here before. And I'm talking about that little belly pooch that, I had gotten control of 2 years ago, and I woke up and went, what the hell is that? My pants don't fit the same. We're all dealing with it. We're all mm-hmm. going through all of these changes and all of these things that happen to us. And, as young mothers, sometimes you don't like your kids because they're jerks and what you love them all the time, but sometimes they're just assholes, and you got to acknowledge that that's normal to feel that way, and it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. Just talk about it. Talk about it.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I'll just say this. So you got a platform right now. What is one nugget that you could give that's going to help a young woman coming along, or something, even an older woman that maybe not know what's one nugget you can give right now that's going to add some value? It's going to at least open their eyes to be aware of what lies ahead in womanhood. What's one thing you wish maybe you had known early on?
I wish I had known that you were going to wake up one day and emotionally, physically, I guess mentally is the same as emotionally, but things are just going to look different. The world is going to look just a little bit different because your hormones are going to change, and things that you used to be able to eat and it was fine. You can't eat that anymore. I can't drink wine anymore. What the hell is wrong with that? But something about I can't drink wine ever since I turned 50. It gives me a stomach ache. You're going to wake up. You're going to be bloated. You're going to feel like shit, but it's normal. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to talk to your healthcare professionals. You have to talk to your friends. You have to talk to whoever will listen to you about the changes that are happening in your body. And, hormones are a real crazy thing. And here's the funny thing is when we are coming up, our mothers talk to us about this fun little thing that's going to happen, that's going to make you a woman, and it's going to, all of the fun things about menstruating. There's nothing fun about it, number one. But we know what the hell's going to happen because our mothers tell us this is going to happen to you, and this is what you're going to have to deal with for the next 40 plus years. When we get pregnant, our mothers there are books everywhere. Oh my God, what to expect when you're expecting. Everybody's going to give you advice. People you don't know are going to come up and touch your belly. All of the things. You know everything from A to Z to double A, all of it. You know everything to expect when you're going to have that baby. You mostly are told what to expect after that baby comes. But nobody tells you that one day you're going to wake up and be a hormonal crazy bitch. And nobody knows when it's going to happen. Some people happens 45. Some people it happens when they're 50. Some women are blessed and don't get it until they're 55. All of the things. Nobody tells you that this is what's going to happen. And you kind of have to whisper, when did you stop having your period? Because all of those things that we're all curious about it. When is that going to end? It started when I was 10. I'm almost 52. When the fuck is it going away? All of those things. Start talking. Somebody needs to write a book about what's going to happen to you in menopause. There's lots of TikTok channels now that women are, we're starting to talk about it. But I'm just at this point where I'm like, okay, CSRA, are you ready to talk about it? Because I'm ready to fucking talk about it. It's just crazy. The nugget is you never know what's going to happen, but whatever's happening is completely normal. It's completely normal. We're all going through it. I'm just going to start telling you that I am. So meet me in the grocery store. I'll tell you. And I will probably make a Facebook post after I've had my last period. I'm not going to lie, because that I'm still waiting on. Maybe it's November 16th on my birthday. Who knows? But I'm done. I'm done.
All right, Liz, this is the second segment of the show where we'd like to dive a little bit more deeper into you and into mental health. That's one of the reasons why I really started this podcast. So my question to you is, how do you stay positive and how do you keep the dark at bay?
I'm really good at it some days and I'm really bad at it other days. For me, it's... I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I haven't had really, really dark days that I have just thought, what the hell are you doing? Why are we here? What's happening? And I think, unfortunately, it is a very real part of a lot of people's lives when they think, why am I still here? And it would just be so much easier if I wasn't. For me, I'm a product of a lot of different things. And again, I made the comment earlier that I didn't have bad parents, but I had bad things happen to me when I was young. I had really shitty, bad things happen to me. And it wasn't until about 7 years ago that I started to really acknowledge them. I mean, there were things that I, kind of had there in the back of my head and that, I'd talk to myself about. But it wasn't until something very traumatic happened in our family that it really came back to me. And I went through all of the traumatic emotions that you go through when you figure out that shit, this happened to me and this is not okay and nothing about this is okay. And you're still having to interact with the people that, caused some of that pain or weren't there for you while you were going through that trauma. And it's hard and nobody wants to talk about it. But I got to the point where I was like, you know what, the more I can talk about this, and I did, I sought out therapists. I had numerous therapists. One that I found that really did me some good and really gave me some coping mechanisms and some tools to genuinely get better. And I do feel like I am on that path to being better and being able to put aside and not, I think too many of us tuck things away. We tuck it away. I had one therapist tell me, and I hope you're listening because it was the shittiest advice I'd ever gotten. But my kids were young and we were talking about different things that had happened to me. And he told me, he said, put it all in a box, put it in a box, big box, tie a big bow around it. And every once in a while, go and take a little bit out of that box. Well, I had 4 kids. I didn't have time to take anything out of anybody's box, except I was too busy putting toys back in the toy box to take anything out of my brain box. So I didn't deal with any of it. But what happened is that box kept getting bigger and it just kept pulsating. It was like all these things that are in there, I want to talk about it. I want to come out. I want to, and what I found is that they created more anxiety in my life. They created anger. They created so many things that I had no freaking idea. Why are you feeling this way? I'd lose my shit over a toy on the floor and then later realize, yeah, that wasn't about that toy on the floor. This isn't about my kids at all. This is about me and that box and what needs to happen. And when that traumatic event happened in our family, 7.5, well, shit, it'll be 8 years next month. That box blew. It freaking blew up and it was all there. And it was like, I've always said it was like these big fucking Jack in the Box clowns just like flailing around in my head. It was like, oh dear Jesus, what do I do with this? How do I handle this? And I really I was really forced to acknowledge my own pain and acknowledge my own trauma and recognize what had happened to me and start to talk about it. And, here's poor Dave at the time. It's like all of these things that I knew were there, but they were hidden so deep. None of us knew they were there. And, but I do think that when you find yourself in a situation where you're recognizing and acknowledging your trauma, find somebody, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a best friend, whether it's somebody, I cannot tell you the number of times I sat at Debbie Ballas's table over tea and coffee, just talking through so many different things because it was a safe place. Just find a safe place, find a soft place to land, find whatever that might be, whether, like I said, it's a therapist, a friend, a spouse, whatever that might be, find that person that you can share these things with when you have time and when you can and when you're strong enough. And what I found is with every single time that it came up and every single time that I dealt with just a little bit more of it, it becomes easier. And I encourage anybody that's got trauma, has had trauma in their life. And trauma is so different for so many different people. It shows itself differently. Everybody has different things that happen that are traumatic, and some people's trauma is huge, and some people just had a traumatic event that, put them into this place and what have you. And one of the things I would encourage anybody has stuff that they deal with is to recognize that your stuff is your stuff. and you have to deal with it the way that you can. One of the things that I learned how to do very recently through some therapy is, for me, it was a 6-year-old little girl and a 12-year-old little girl that simply had some shit done to them that wasn't fun, wasn't kind. And they've been living inside of me for a long time, and they haven't been taken care of. And in order for me, 52-year-old Liz, to feel completely whole again, I got to take care of those little girls that live inside of me that weren't cared for the way they should have been, and acknowledge their pain and acknowledge their anxiety. And one of the things that I learned is, when you feel this anxiety, because I started having anxiety attacks and panic attacks and things that I was like, what the hell is this? I've never experienced this before. What the hell is going on with me? One of the things that my therapist said was, acknowledge it. That anxiety is there for a reason. It's a protective mechanism that your brain has put into place. It's a protective mechanism. And acknowledge that anxiety. Thank it. But just let it know, I need about 10 minutes with 12-year-old me. Just give me some time. Let me be with her. Let me acknowledge her pain. Let me teach her that it's going to be okay and that we're going to move on from this. But the longer you stay here and the longer you keep me feeling the way that the longer you protect me from myself, basically, the less time I'm going to get with her. And so it's at the time, it just seems so crazy. But the more I've worked with it and the more I've, done some work with myself, it's so true. You feel like, when you have this panic attack or when you have this anxiety, instead of going like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Okay, take that deep breath, take that minute to acknowledge that, yeah, your brain realizes you're about to go through some shit and it needs to protect you from it. And acknowledge, I appreciate that. Thank you. Give me 5. I need 5. I need you to step away for just 5 minutes and give me some time to deal with this. And it works for me. Not everybody is going to find their thing, but for me, this is what's working right now. And I don't know if it's always going to work, but for now it's working. And I could sit and dwell in everything that's happened to me, but my reality is I have so many things that are better, that are more important than what I've been through. I look at myself, and first of all, I think I'm a pretty damn good person. People like me. I like myself. Not always, but most days I like who I am and who I've become. And I have to look at that, and I really have to acknowledge that in spite of all of the things that happened to me, and in spite of the things I was taught, in spite of the way I was raised, I did better. I did a lot better. And, I touched on it earlier that I made a conscious effort to every day, focus on being better, getting better. And, for me, it's just getting up in the mornings and, acknowledging that regardless of where I've been, I've got better places to be. And there are days that, I get to work and I'm in a shitty mood because whatever happens has happened, and I've thought about certain things, and you go through these phases in life where everything's really great, and then you start to you lose things and you lose people, and that takes you into a darker place, and then you have to really acknowledge, what would that person want for you? Where are you really? But for me, it's my kids, it's Dave, it's a lot of different things, but especially it's my kids, and I just have, they deserve a better me. They just do. And I think that, the world deserves for me to be better. And the crazy thing is it's not even that. It's not just that my kids deserve for me to be better. I do. And I'm finally getting to this place in my life where I can acknowledge that I deserve to be better. And it's more about me. I've spent so many years, 28 years, where it was all about the kids and all about, you really, as being a parent, you just put everything aside for your kids. You just, you don't do things, or you do things, and, all of this stuff that you do for your kids. And you really put yourself aside, and you don't focus on you, and you don't work on you. And, I'm at this point now where the kids are old enough that you have time to focus a little more on you. And I think what I'm learning, and what's actually kind of fun to acknowledge, is that I'm worth that.
All right, Liz, it is time now for segment number 3. This is
I'm so scared.
Fast Five. Fast Five. Fast Five. It's the Fast Five. Powered by Pancakes. It's an app created by my friend Travis Brown. It's great for conversation starters, or if you have to talk to somebody, you can just use the Pancakes. I'm using the app right now, but if you go to chewingthefatbr.com/Pancakes, you can get your own physical decks as well, which are really, really cool looking decks as well. You can carry around with you and give them out as like business cards and stuff if you want to.
How fun.
But and you use the promo code CHEW, you get 10% off your order. So these are fast 5 questions. You can just answer them however you want to. First thing off the top of your head. Okay, there are no wrong answers. I don't care what Wes said. There are no wrong answers.
I listened to Sharonda's and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
What's going to happen here?
It's okay. So question number 1. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Why?
Because I just like the way they look. Now, if I'm cooking them, pancakes, because they're so much easier. But if I'm eating them, totally going to be waffles.
Really? But I mean, they have a waffle iron, and you just put pancake batter in a waffle iron, and then
no. Because if you get the only add water pancake mix, which is what this girl does, in order to make waffles, you have to add an egg and an oil to it. It's not, you cannot just put pancake batter into a waffle maker. Mom tip.
I did not know that. That is a good mom tip.
Check your box.
That is awesome.
Check your box.
All right. And question number 2. Have you ever sleepwalked or talked in your sleep?
I don't believe that I have ever talked in my sleep, but I have had to stop Dave from having a meeting in his.
Really?
Yes. He will sit straight up in the bed and have a full-on work meeting.
Really?
But no, I've never done that. Not to my knowledge. I was asleep.
You were asleep. I had no idea if you talked in your sleep or sleepwalk. I have sleepwalked before. It's been many, many years. I know I snore. I know that's not talking, but I do know I snore. But I remember vividly what happened. And then also I remember vividly my mom telling me what actually transpired. We had gone down to Florida to go to Disney World or whatever, staying at some motel as you do. And I think I was probably around 8 years old. And I got up out of the bed and I went to the bathroom But what I didn't know was that I actually did not go to the bathroom, and I went to the corner of the hotel room and just peed in the corner.
My sister did that in the hamper.
No, I just did it in the corner. I thought it was I didn't even hit a hamper. I mean, it was just the corner of the room. So yeah, so we had to get extra towels. So I have sleepwalked before.
Clean up in aisle 3.
All right. Question number 3. How long would you last on the Great British Baking Show?
3.2 seconds.
That's
it.
Not episodes. 3.2 seconds.
3.2 seconds.
No baking. Come on, you're a mom for 28 years. I mean, you're always a mom, but in the house. I mean, you had to make birthday cakes and things.
I did. No, I didn't.
No?
I did. Yes, I baked things, but it was just so much easier to buy it and just stick it on a pan, and then you had the cookie dough pre-made and it edible and all the things. I'm not a baker. I can follow a recipe. I can bake. I choose not to.
For yourself and for others.
For others.
That's awesome. All right. And question number 4. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
A mom.
Well, look at that. Dreams do come true.
They do.
That is awesome.
They came true 4 times.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. What was it? I'm gonna go off a tangent here. Was it more than what you thought it was going to be? Was it not all what you thought being a mom was going to be when you look back at little Liz wanting to be a mom?
You know what? I don't even, in everything that happened to little Liz, I don't know what she thought a mom was. I think the greatest example that I had was my mama. She was the most incredible human being that I knew, and I've always said that I will strive to be like her. With everything that I do. And when I look at, I don't know what little Liz thought motherhood was going to be, but I'll never forget peeing on that stick when I found out I was pregnant with Grace and just thinking, wow. And then she came into this world, and then Lee came along, and Abby came along, and Sean came along, and watching their relationships develop and watching who they've become, and just, I think the greatest accomplishment, the greatest honor, I don't have, as much as I can talk and as many words as I have, I don't have enough words to describe, number 1, how much I love them. Number 2, how incredibly proud I am to be their mother. And for as many struggles as we went through, it was easy. They made being a mom so damn easy because they just did. They just made it easy. They just did. They're just good people. And I'm really, really proud of them.
That's awesome. All right. And number 5. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Oh, geez. I just said to somebody today that going to Vegas is on my bucket list, but that's not a good one.
Why? Have you ever been to Vegas?
I haven't been to Vegas, and I do feel like I need to go to Vegas, but I'm like, yeah, it's on my bucket list, but it's not like the bucket list item.
Well, I mean, you know.
My bucket list item, the one thing that is on my bucket list, and sorry, kids, I cannot fucking wait to meet my grandchildren one day.
Oh.
I've always said to my kids, I said, if I don't make it to a point where I'm alive when they come to be, please let them know how much I just loved the thought of them. I just love the thought of being a mama one day. And I've always heard that, you know, you love your kids. Oh my God, do you love your kids? But damn, when those grandkids come along, it's like you didn't even know that you had that kind of capacity to love. And as much as I love my kids, I can't imagine what that's going to be like to finally, and not finally, I mean, they're not that old, but to finally freaking be a grandma and have that just incredible love and have this tiny little human being think that I am the be all end all, because my kids don't think I'm the be all end all. They love me and all, but those grandkids, trust me when I tell you, they're going to love me like my dogs do. I will be the be all end all for my grandchildren, and I look forward to it.
That is so awesome. Do you have a grandma name picked out? Mama.
I am going to be Mama because my Mama was the most incredible human being, and I want to emulate that. I want my kids to look at me and think, oh my God, my Mama is the greatest thing ever.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Well, Liz, that's it. That's our Fast Five. That's the show as well. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today. I love that we had this time to sit around and talk. If folks want to keep up with you, where can they find you on social media?
You know what? I am on Facebook, and if you Facebook friend me and just, send me a little message that said you heard me and just want to know more about me, I will certainly accept your friend request and we can talk. I'm also on Instagram. I'm Liz Bell 4. Don't post a lot there. I just, I'm not into the Twitter thing. I need to get my kids to help me out with that. I do love TikTok, so if you're on TikTok, I don't know what my name is on there. I think it's Elizabeth Belmer. I really don't. I haven't done a TikTok yet. I keep threatening, but my kids have basically said, if you get TikTok famous for talking about menopause, we will disown you. But I think that might even happen at some point, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm, not on the social media that much, but hell, I'll give you my phone number if you we can chat.
There you go.
We can text. It's fine.
I want to make sure if people want to find out more, if you got more nuggets, life
I got lots of life nuggets.
I want to make sure that they can find you and keep up with you. Thank you so much again for being here.
I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you being here. If you would like to support this podcast, you can buy me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. You can check out all the previous guests along with Liz's information as well. And I look forward to the next time we have a chance to sit a spell and chew the fat.